Hi everyone, it's Alyssa and this is Always Cinema Chic, the place that encourages you to stay at home, get dressed up, and watch a movie. So I just watched the movie Everything, directed by Stella Meggy, and it was interesting, to say the least. So I'm just going to start by saying that I do have a soft spot in my heart for teenage movies since I'm always around teenagers, so I do like watching these movies and I usually enjoy them. I know that they're maybe not the best films ever made, but I do like watching them, and every once in a while you get something like Easy A, which is definitely a cut above the rest. But I went into this movie knowing that it's about a girl who has SCID, which is a severe combined immunodeficiency disorder. And she's not able to leave the house, basically, because she is allergic to everything. She is very susceptible to getting any kind of virus or bacterial infections. Almost anything can kill her, so she's stuck inside. So I went into the movie and I thought to myself, what's the most ridiculous ending that I could come up with for this movie? And I win. I was right. I got it right. So before I even saw one frame of this movie, I guessed the ending, and it really is the most absurd and ridiculous ending that I think anyone could think up for this particular storyline. But we'll go back a little bit. So the movie stars Amandla Stenberg. She played Rue in the movie The Hunger Games, and then also Nick Robinson. He is the teenage boy from Jurassic Park, and together they kind of create this new Romeo and Juliet like couple, because they obviously aren't supposed to be together, because if she leaves the house, she can die. If he comes over and brings in an allergen or a virus, she can get sick and she can die. So they definitely are meant to be separated from each other. So the movie starts off where Maddie, the main character, sees that Ollie is moving in next door. Of course, he's a really cute boy and she's interested in him. He comes over with a bundt cake that his mother made as kind of a gesture of goodwill to everyone in the neighborhood. But when Maddie's mom, Pauline, answers the door, she just kind of shoos him away, even thinking that that bundt cake could potentially get her daughter sick. So right off the bat, they are attracted to each other and they see each other through the window. They start texting each other, but then it's not enough because they're so curious about who the other person is. Now along comes the live-in nurse, Carla, who's been with Maddie since she was born, taking care of her. And she decides, you know what, I want this girl to have some kind of semblance of a life. So behind the mom's back, she allows Ollie to come in. They're on separate sides of the room, of course, and they get to have their first conversation where they are actually in the same room with each other. Now let's think about this. There's a nurse, and the nurse sets up a meeting between two people who are not supposed to meet. Maybe we'll call them star-crossed lovers. So it's reminding me of something I've read before, but I can't quite remember what. You'll have to let me know. Okay. So anyway, what I really did like about this movie was the beginning of it. The first act of the film was really just whimsical and kind of beautiful. It was unexpected. The main character, Maddie, you keep going inside her head, so you get these sort of dream sequences. So when she's texting Ollie for the first time, in her head, she's creating these wonderful idealized first dates that they're going on. So for example, they go to this really cute diner that's all pastel colors and it's just super, super romantic. That's my cat making a noise if you were curious. So all of these sequences are really sweet. There's one part that reminded me of 500 Days of Summer where the two characters are in the same room with each other and they're having a conversation, but below you see the subtitles of what they're actually thinking. And I was like, you know, this is cute. This is a step above the rest, and it's really taking you inside this teenage girl's mind. So I appreciated it. But as the movie went on, I'll pause there so I can stop my cat from... Okay, I'm back. Sorry. But when you get to the second act of the movie, it starts to lose some of those dreamlike sequences, and it starts to fall into a lot more cliches. But by the third act, this movie just goes completely off the rails, and I was just done with it by that time. And really the only person that I can blame is the writer. So this is actually based on a young adult book that's written by Nicola Yoon. And you can't really change the ending of a book that everybody knows. I mean, you can, but they would not often do that for this kind of movie. So it lost all credibility at that point for me. Now, I looked into this book, I've never read it, and I really liked the inspiration that the author had. She has a daughter that is multiracial, and she wanted to provide a protagonist that her daughter could relate to, and she didn't think that was really out there in the market. And I think that is such a wonderful and noble thing to do, but I still have to look at the story, at the narrative, and if the narrative just kind of goes off the hinges, then I have to call it out for that. So I love the intention of this story. I love the intention with the movie. There's a lot of positives, but that just kind of outweighs everything positive that the movie is doing. Another thing that I'm sure was probably in the novel but wasn't in the film at all is giving a bit more of a backstory to Ollie. Now you get so much information about Maddie, and I understand it's from her perspective, but you get this one little nugget in the film very early on where you realize that, wow, he comes from an abusive family, and that's why his family's moving around all the time. And so his father abuses him, his mother, and they just show one scene and then they never really address it again. And I felt like, wow, that gives a lot of background to his character. It shows us why he's so kind of dark and moody and really contrasting to Maddie. But why didn't we get more from his perspective? And I think this is usually a flaw in romance stories to begin with, especially with teenagers, where you're so one-sided with one character. But if it's about a relationship, you really want to know both sides of the equation, unless the purpose of the movie is to show how you're really only getting one perspective in a relationship. So I thought that was something that could have been better. As for the performances, I really thought the standout was Amandla Stenberg. She did such an excellent job as Maddie. She's so soft-spoken and strong, but yet there's a really wistful quality to her because she has missed out on so many aspects of her childhood. And she's sad, but there's still a level of optimism in her personality. She's very intelligent, she is well-read, she doesn't really have much else to do, but she's just this kind of beautiful, laid-back kind of a person. And I felt like she fit into the tone of what this movie was going for in the first place. And I really think that she is someone to watch in the future. Nick Robinson, I thought, did a really good job. Like I said, his character wasn't as well developed as I would like it to be, but he was still genuine. He had to give some really cliched lines, but yet there was still an authentic nature to those cliche lines. So I always appreciate when actors you can basically give them anything to say and they'll make it seem believable. So I thought that he was a good counterpoint to her in the film. And I was also really impressed with the director, Stella Meggy. This is the second full-length feature film that she's ever made, and I thought she did such a great job with what she was given. She paid attention to the cinematography. There was always the darkness of Ollie, and the dark colors always contrasted with the pastel colors, the light colors that are associated with Maddie, not Maggie. And so I thought that there was care that was put into this. The movie had a feeling of just being very cool soundtrack, laid back. If I could describe a movie as lo-fi, I would describe this as that lo-fi kind of style and tone. This is the music that I listen to. It has a very sort of vintagey looking feel to the movie. So I like that she tried to make something a little bit more than a teenage film with this particular story. But at the end of the day, all the lovely performances, that pastel color palette, that cool soundtrack, and those kind of dreamy sequences inside Maddie's head, it still doesn't erase the ending for me. And I feel like this whole cast and crew, they really tried to do as much as possible with what they were given, but they certainly were not given everything. Sorry, I felt like I had to make that bad joke. So anyway, I put the reviews into two categories. The first one is looking at it as a film for its artistic merit and its storytelling. And for that, I would give the movie a C+. It was going to be a lot higher when I was at the halfway point of the film, but that ending just kicked it down. But I couldn't kick it down so much because I did think they tried to make this a little bit different of a teenage movie. So while I do think there's fault, I think teenage girls will like this movie. If you saw the trailer and you thought it looked kind of enjoyable, you'll probably enjoy it, if not just for the performances of the main characters. But in terms of watchability, so that's the second category I look at. It's like, how much do you enjoy this film? Was this an enjoyable film to watch? And for that, I would give it a B-. Once again, I would have given it higher if not for the ending, but in my head, if you just watch the movie, stop at about the 1 hour mark, somewhere around there, and then just make up the rest of the story, you're probably gonna like the movie more. But also, if you're an adult and you would like a suggestion for something that's gonna give you that same romantic feeling that maybe has that dreaminess, I really would recommend watching 500 Days of Summer. So if you haven't seen that before, it still has that indie music feeling vibe to it. And there's a lot of dream sequences. My favorite being there's a flash mob dance sequence with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and I can watch that over and over and over again. It is so funny. It is just the funniest scene ever. So if you weren't sure what to watch, I would, maybe steer towards that 500 Days of Summer instead. So thank you so much, you guys, for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you could like this video, if you could subscribe to the channel if you have not done so yet, I would really appreciate it. I'm having so much fun making these videos and playing around with the editing style, so I really do appreciate you watching. So remember, it's always in fashion to stay at home, relax, and make it a cinema chic night. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.